Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 615 based on novel. So let's start. Almost all the Empyrean exalts, Ascendant Empyreans, and Grand Empyreans of the Celestial clan were attracted by Wang Lin's seemingly mad action. This kind of thing was very rare in the Celestial clan. Only Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao had received this kind of attention in the past. However, this focus would no longer only belong to Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. A part of it would split and descend upon Wang Lin. From now on, in the history of the Celestial clan, Wang Lin's name would shine brightly and be known by all those that were qualified. Even in the near future, it was likely even the ancient clan would hear about this. The Celestial clan's 49th Ascendant Empyrean. After becoming an Ascendant Empyrean, he passed the 11th and 12th palaces and was attempting the 13th palace. Grand Empyrean Zhu Di on Mount Emperor was no longer lazing around but staring intently at the autumn leaf before him. His expression was serious. He understood that passing through the 13th palace, even with the soul armor, meant that this person was too not worthless. As for the Celestial Emperor, who had revealed himself in the Imperial Palace, his eyes contained a strange light. He looked at the illusion ahead as he watched Wang Lin rush into the 13th palace. Beside him, the black-robed Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao had already sat down. His divine sense had gathered on his forehead and he was about to head to the Empyrean trial. At this moment, in the Empyrean trial, Grand Empyrean Dao Yi frowned and sighed. He knew that the current Wang Lin had already set off a storm. If a Grand Empyrean wanted to attract such a cultivator, it would require a certain price. But no matter how great the price, it would be worth it. Once this person became a Grand Empyrean, the benefits would be well worth it. To have another Grand Empyrean as a friend and also having a previous relationship would help any Grand Empyrean's status increase greatly. Grand Empyrean Wu Feng also let out a sigh. He foresaw Wang Lin reproducing the scene of the 4 Grand Empyreans beside Gemini all fighting for the same person. Unless some unknown accident happened. The Empyrean trial was completely silent and the Empyrean exalts were silently looking up at the sky. Throughout the day, they felt the gap between them and Wang Lin, who had gone from the 5th palace to the current 12th palace. They recalled the thoughts they had when Wang Lin had just passed the 5th palace and how that seemed like a joke now. With their cultivation level, they were qualified to comment on an Ascendant Empyrean, much less one that had just passed the 12th palace. Now they could only look up at the figure in the sky. Even Snow Rain and company silently pondered, but their complicated feelings decreased greatly. After all, the gap was too big enough to erase all other thoughts. Back then, Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao stopped at the 13th palace. I wonder if this person can surpass him. If he passes the 13th palace, he will completely suppress Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao in the past, becoming the strongest person who just became an Ascendant Empyrean. Although he can't compare to the current Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao, who can pass the 15th palace, is not far away. As for the Ascendant Empyrean tiny child, his face was pale after everything he had witnessed. At this moment, he should change his mindset, but he couldn't help but reveal a complicated expression. The 13th palace. He definitely can't pass it. There were more than 20 Ascendant Empyreans who had come here with Snow Rain and company. They were scattered across the Empyrean trial as they looked up, witnessing this event. I wonder if he can pass the 13th palace. My Celestial clan has a total of 9 people who stopped at the 13th palace, including Cai Wei and Ming Dao. Even if Wang Lin can't pass the 13th palace, he will be in the top 10 among Ascendant Empyreans. The 13th palace, he should not be able to pass. In the end, he still has his limits. There were some Ascendant Empyreans that were friends who talked to each other through divine sense. They looked up at the outline of the 13th palace that was hidden in the clouds. Inside the 13th palace, Wang Lin's face was pale. When he entered, the foggy star system appeared before him again. The fog here seemed more intense than the previous 2 palaces. Wang Lin silently pondered inside this fog. The heavenly bull appeared among the 9 spirits in the 12th palace. I could feel that passing the 12th palace was the limit of the soul armor. The soul armor is not omnipotent. It can raise my cultivation level and increase my combat power, but as my cultivation increases, its effect gradually reduces. After all it can do is make me infinitely close to the heavenly bull. However, in truth, there is still a gap. Fortunately, I learned the extreme fire Dao in the 11th palace and obtained the extreme water Dao in the 12th palace. Out of 8 extreme Daos the celestial ancestor inherited from the immemorial god realm, I now control 2. This 13th palace, should I pass or not? Wang Lin stared at the palace and pondered. What is Dao? As he pondered, the same voice he had heard inside the previous 2 palaces echoed. This voice echoed through the void and was filled with endless pressure. As the voice echoed, Wang Lin's eyes gradually became calm. He had already answered this question twice, and his response was different each time. He answered, life and death are Dao, the first time, and karma is Dao, the second time. The third time, Wang Lin understood that the answer was, true and false are Dao. This test of enlightenment of Dao might be difficult for others, but Wang Lin had already begun pondering these matters back in the cave world. One move to become famous. I should have barely counted as having done that. After the 13th palace, I should stop. Even if the Grand Empyreans know that I have the soul armor, this should be enough. Wang Lin pondered and made up his mind. As the voice echoed, Wang Lin's mind was clear. He thought about his dream on planet Suzaku and slowly said, life and death are chains, this is Dao. The chains connect together to form a circle that is karma, this is Dao. People have a dream barrier, they can't tell if they are awake or in a dream. This dream barrier hinders all life from seeing the world. They are immersed in the true and false and are unable to pull themselves out. The power to break the dream barrier and open your eyes is true and false, this is Dao. As his words echoed, the fog that covered the area dissipated, revealing the complete star system. Time passed. The people at the Empyrean trial had waited for an incense stick of time, and now their gazes toward the 13th palace were gradually becoming filled with regret and hesitation. This is taking much longer than the 12th palace. This shows how difficult the 13th palace is. It looks like he will stop at the 13th palace. After all, he must have a limit. That's right. Becoming one of the top 10 most powerful Ascendant Empyreans the moment he became an Ascendant Empyrean is enough for his fame to sweep the Celestial clan. If he could pass the 13th palace, he would become the 3rd most powerful Ascendant Empyrean, just after Ascendant Empyrean Cai Wei. In the end, he still hasn't surpassed Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. The Ascendant Empyreans sent out divine sense messages to each other, some felt regret and some felt relief. Is this the limit? Grand Empyrean Dao Yi looked at the sky and relaxed a bit. Not being able to pass the 13th palace would make it easier for him to recruit Wang Lin. Just as everyone was speculating if Wang Lin would stop at the 13th palace, the ancient transfer array in the distance lit up. A figure began to condense, and after the light dissipated, a young man in black appeared before everyone. His appearance stirred the crowd no less than Dao Yi and Wu Feng. It was as if his appearance would set off a new storm in the Empyrean trial. Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. He is Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. Even he came. If Wang Lin passes through the 13th palace, what kind of expression will Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao make? Many of the Empyrean exalts here haven't seen Ascendant Empyrean Ming Do before, but as they talked to each other, they learned who he was. They all looked at him with respect, but even more so with a sense of expectation. They were waiting for what would happen once Wang Lin appeared and their gazes met. The strongest Ascendant Empyrean, number 1 under the Grand Empyreans. Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao decided to come here now. This is interesting. This Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao clearly can't calm down. After all, Wang Lin is about to surpass him. If he didn't come, then it would be contrary to his personality. This Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao had always been arrogant, but no one could challenge him. Even Ascendant Empyrean Cai Wei can only be suppressed by Ming Dao. Only the Ascendant Empyreans had some understanding of Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. They looked at each other and their expression remained the same, but their expectations also built up in their hearts. Ming Dao greets Grand Empyrean Dao Yi and Wu Feng. The cold-looking youth in black didn't look at the Empyrean exalts or Ascendant Empyreans but clasped his hands at the two Grand Empyreans. Wu Feng looked at Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao and sighed in his heart. He had offered excellent conditions, but Ming Dao still chose the Celestial Emperor. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly looked up. Not only him, but everyone's hearts trembled and they stopped paying attention to Ming Dao. They all looked up in the sky. The 13th palace covered by clouds suddenly erupted with golden light. This golden light soaked into the clouds, causing the entire sky to become golden. He has passed the 13th palace. In the past, when Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao became an Ascendant Empyrean, he was stopped at the 13th palace. Now this Wang Lin has passed the 13th palace and surpassed Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. The black-robed Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao's eyes shrank as he stared at the sky, and his expression became a bit gloomy. At this moment, the entire Empyrean trial seemed to boil. All the Empyrean exalts here were shocked by Wang Lin passing the 13th palace. They thought they had overestimated Wang Lin, but they were wrong. 13th palace. How much battle power does this Wang Lin have? Could it be that he wants to break through all the way to the 19th palace? This person has already shaken the whole world in just a day. The Ascendant Empyreans all looked up at the sky with eyes filled with shock. They had good reason to be shocked by Wang Lin. The moment the golden light came from the 13th palace, it was unknown who had turned to look at Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao first, but a moment later, more than half the gazes were locked onto him. Wang Lin passing the 13th palace was an invisible challenge toward Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao looked calm, but a coldness spread out like a cold storm was brewing inside his body. As this coldness spread, the surrounding uproar immediately stopped. In the sky, Wang Lin's figure appeared outside the 13th palace. His face was extremely pale, and after he appeared, he didn't attempt the 14th palace but slowly sank. As he sank, the surrounding cultivators were all silent. "Are you not going to keep going?" Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao's voice echoed in the silence of Wang Lin's descent. As the voice echoed through the Empyrean trial, the hearts of all the cultivators who heard it trembled. A sense of expectation appeared in their hearts. They felt a storm was coming. Grand Empyrean Dao Yi's expression remained calm and he didn't speak. Grand Empyrean Wu Feng smiled as if he hadn't heard anything. These two Ascendant Empyreans were both excellent and they wanted to see what they would do next. This scene was even more interesting to the surrounding cultivators than Wang Lin attempting the Empyrean trial. The people who were far from the Empyrean trial who saw this were also very interested. As Grand Empyrean Zhu Di looked at the autumn leaf before him, his eyes shined brightly. Being able to pass through the 13th palace means that this person is worthy of being recruited. Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao's action is interesting. I wonder how this Wang Lin will reply. From his appearance, the 13th palace was not easy, but it's enough to make him famous across the Celestial clan. In the Imperial Palace, the Celestial Emperor was sitting on the dragon throne as he looked at the illusion, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He has only passed through the 13th palace, that's nothing to worry about. Ming Dao is a bit too arrogant and won't allow someone to surpass him, even though it's only the achievement of someone who has just become an Ascendant Empyrean. Normally, having this kind of personality is not good, but he channels this bad trait into his cultivation, so it's fine. Forget it, just let Ming Dao teach this Wang Lin a lesson. Even though he has passed the 13th palace, he has to bow if he comes to my imperial city. Eastern Continent, Purple Yang Sect. The middle-aged man looked at the mirror before him and frowned. Ming Dao. This person is a bit too much. How could he speak like this before all the Empyrean exalts? He is clearly showing his contempt. In the Empyrean trial, Wang Lin, who had sunk to the 9th palace, suddenly stopped. He looked at the black-robed young man who was looking coldly at him. "Who are you?" Wang Lin slowly asked. He naturally saw the party's hostility. Ming Dao. The black-robed young man's expression was cold and arrogant. I'm asking why you are stopping. Wang Lin frowned, and after pondering a bit, he guessed why Ming Dao was acting like this. It seemed that when he passed the 13th palace, he had surpassed this person's past achievements. It's rare to have this kind of personality after reaching Ascendant Empyrean. This person, Wang Lin, looked at Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao and his eyes lit up an undetectable amount. To enter Dao with pride and use a heart full of pride to cultivate. Not allowing other to surpass him. This pride fills his heart and soul. No wonder he could become #1 among Ascendant Empyreans. He likely does not care about anything but single-mindedly focusing on Dao. Wang Lin smiled and ignored the black-robed young man. He flew toward where Dao Yi and Wu Feng were located. Wang Lin greets two fellow Grand Empyreans. After this Empyrean trial, I still have an urgent matter to attend to and have to leave. Wang Lin ignored Ming Dao and bowed before Dao Yi and Wu Feng. Being able to pass the 13th palace means that you can be considered to be at the peak of my celestial clan. I'll come find you. Grand Empyrean Wu Feng smiled and nodded at Wang Lin. Haha, little friend Wang Lin, since you remember our previous agreement, then I'll also go find you. As for the specific conditions, we can talk about them in detail after we meet. Admiration appeared in Grand Empyrean Dao Yi's eyes. Wang Lin clasped his hands at Dao Yi and Wu Feng once more. He continued to ignore Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao as he flew toward the ancient transfer array to leave. He felt like he had already shocked everyone and achieved his goal. In the 13th palace, if he hadn't used some power from the avatar in the void, he could not have passed it with the soul armor alone. At this moment, he decided to stop here. The 13th palace was enough to attract great attention from the Grand Empyreans. When all the cultivators saw Wang Lin leaving, they felt slightly disappointed in their hearts. It looks like this Wang Lin doesn't dare to provoke Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. This means he knows his limits. After all, he has only passed the 13th palace, and Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao is the #1 Ascendant Empyrean who passed through the 15th palace. However, Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao is a bit too aggressive. His words earlier were not polite at all, as if he was questioning Wang Lin. What do you mean, too aggressive? Cultivators like us respect the strong. Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao is #1 under Grand Empyreans and should act like this. On the contrary, it is Wang Lin ignoring him that seems arrogant. The surrounding discussions were no longer via divine senses but with voices, as if there was a purpose. The discussions became louder and louder. Even Wang Lin, who had arrived next to the ancient transfer array, could hear some of it. Wang Lin frowned and looked at the cultivators behind him. Under his gaze, all the chattering stopped. Wang Lin turned back and was about to leave the Empyrean trial through the transfer array. But just at this moment, there was someone who didn't want him to leave like this. Are you just going to leave like this? I have already asked you twice. A cold voice came from the black-robed young man, Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. Wang Lin stopped. After pondering a bit, he turned to look at Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. That's right, I'm no longer going to attempt the trial. What do you want? Nothing, I just want you to try the 14th palace. Once you fail, you can leave, the youth in black slowly said, the arrogance on his face becoming even stronger. After Wang Lin heard this, he suddenly laughed and no longer paid attention to Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. He stepped into the transfer array and it lit up. However, at this moment, there was a flash of killing intent in the black-robed young man's eyes. Arrogant. As he spoke, he raised his right hand and pointed at the transfer array. With this, the entire Empyrean trial seemed to tremble. A giant finger appeared and flew toward the transfer array. Fighting was not allowed in the Empyrean trial. This was a long-standing rule of the Empyrean trial. However, right now, Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao had attacked with no regards to this rule. This rule was not set by the celestial ancestor, but by later generations. Therefore, attacking someone here wouldn't provoke the Empyrean trial, but people rarely dared to disobey it. The moment the giant finger appeared, it stirred up the energy here. All the cultivators gasped and fear appeared in their eyes as they retreated. He dares to act here? Indeed worthy of being number one under Grand Empyreans, he even dares to violate the rules here. These rules were set by the Grand Empyreans. Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao has guts. The giant finger created a heaven-shattering howl as it flew toward Wang Lin. If Wang Lin didn't move, his divine sense would likely be damaged during the transfer and would likely collapse. But if he hid, he would be forced out from the transfer array and would be unable to leave. This was the same as killing Wang Lin's momentum and would seriously damage Wang Lin's face of passing through the 13th palace. It would show everyone how strong Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao was right after Wang Lin had gained his fame. Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao also knew that although fighting between Ascendant Empyreans was rare, as long as he didn't go too far, the Grand Empyreans wouldn't interfere. Grand Empyrean Dao Yi and Wu Feng frowned. Dao Yi hesitated and didn't speak, but Wu Feng let out a cold snort. Ming Dao, you have guts. You dare to attack here? As he spoke, he waved his right hand. At this moment, a laugh came from a cultivator below. Golden light surrounded one of the Empyrean exalts below and an image appeared around him. It was a shadow wearing a golden robe and a crown. It was the Celestial Emperor. This Celestial Emperor appeared here using his own special spell. He waved his right hand at Wu Feng and diffused the power from Wu Feng's wave. Inside the transfer array, Wang Lin looked up and killing intent appeared in his eyes. He originally didn't want to create too much trouble here, but Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao's actions had caused killing intent to appear in his heart. He wouldn't allow the goal he had achieved to be destroyed by this person. When the finger arrived, Wang Lin walked out from the transfer array. The finger stopped before Wang Lin and dissipated. It was as if the party had no intention of actually attacking and was just mocking Wang Lin. Celestial Emperor, what is the meaning of this? Grand Empyrean Wu Feng stared at the Celestial Emperor's shadow around the Empyrean exalt. Wu Feng, no need to be angry. Ming Dao didn't hurt anyone and didn't break any rules. The Celestial Emperor's shadow around the cultivator smiled, but he had an expression as if he couldn't be questioned. He didn't even look at Wang Lin, who was outside the transfer array. Not to mention, if Wang Lin didn't leave the transfer array and the finger landed, his divine sense would have been damaged during the transfer. Forget violating the rules, this kind of behavior is extremely shameless. Grand Empyrean Wu Feng waved his sleeve and showed no sign of retreat. Celestial Emperor Wu Feng smiled and said, Wu Feng, your words are a bit too much. Is the child injured? Wu Feng coldly looked at the Celestial Emperor but didn't speak. Since no damage was done, what need is there to act like this? Wu Feng, I know you want to recruit this child and I won't fight with you. This kind of cultivator, the Celestial Emperor lowered his head to look at Wang Lin, is worthless. He has the soul armor, so he can pass the 13th palace. But without the soul armor, it would have been difficult for him to become an Ascendant Empyrean, the Celestial Emperor said in a casual tone. He was the Celestial Emperor, Grand Empyrean 8 Extreme. His words meant more than any Ascendant Empyreans. His words set off a storm in the Empyrean trial. Almost no Empyrean exalts and Ascendant Empyreans here knew that Wang Lin had a soul armor. They thought Wang Lin had passed through the 13th palace with his own strength. However, after the Celestial Emperor spoke, a buzz of discussion erupted. He has a soul armor. This man is actually so shameless. I was wondering how he could climb from the 5th palace to the 13th palace. It turns out that he relied on the power of the soul armor. Even I can do that. No wonder he passed through the palaces so fast. His actual power is only at the 5th palace, but because of the soul armor, he was able to get this far. He can deceive us, but he can't deceive the Grand Empyreans. We were almost cheated by him. This Wang Lin is shameless. What Ascendant Empyrean? He is simply a common Empyrean exalt. Without the soul armor, I can kill him in one breath. HMPH, I suspect he doesn't even have the cultivation of an Empyrean exalt, and the reason he can come here is due to the power of the soul armor. Look at his cultivation level, he is clearly only at the mid-stage of Void Turbulent and not even a golden exalt. I thought he was deliberately hiding his cultivation level, now it seems like he is merely a tiny mid-stage void turbulent cultivator. No wonder only Grand Empyrean Dao Yi and Grand Empyrean Wu Feng came after he broke through the 13th palace. Grand Empyrean Zhu Di never appeared. Clearly, he has long seen through this person's shamelessness and felt too much disdain to recruit him. What kind of talent does this person have? He is clearly a cheater. He deceived us all. If I knew this, I wouldn't have come to watch. The reason the Empyrean exalts were so angry was mostly due to jealousy. Before, it had mostly dissipated due to the large gap, but now that they had learned that it was all fake, their jealousy broke out. The Ascendant Empyreans all had strange expressions as they looked at Wang Lin. He's actually using a soul armor. But even with the soul armor, to be able to pass the 13th palace means he has some skills. I didn't expect it to be like this. This person's reputation had just reached its peak after becoming the third strongest Ascendant Empyrean, but then the Celestial Emperor pointed out the soul armor. Could the Celestial Emperor have a grudge against him? There is something wrong with this matter. If it was so simple, Grand Empyrean Dao Yi and Grand Empyrean Wu Feng wouldn't have come to watch. The surrounding discussions buzzed and entered Wang Lin's ears. He stood there silently, pondering, and his face was a little pale. He still had everyone's attention, but compared to before, it was like night and day. This was the purpose of the Celestial Emperor. He wouldn't let Wang Lin gain fame so easily. That's why he pointed out the critical point. Now he listened to the discussions of the surrounding cultivators and smiled. So you wore the soul armor to pass the 13th palace. I was wondering why you were rushing to leave after the 13th palace and did not attempt to pass the 14th palace. It seems the time on your soul armor ran out, so you could no longer fool everyone and had to leave immediately. Forget it, a cultivator like you is not qualified for me to take another look at. Scram! Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao sneered at Wang Lin and waved his sleeve. What a disappointment! Facing all the discussions and contempt of all the surrounding cultivators, Grand Empyrean Dao Yi opened his mouth to say something, but he just let out a sigh in his heart. He knew that the cultivator named Wang Lin was notorious in the Celestial clan. For the Celestial Emperor to speak like this at this moment means that he has some sort of relationship with this child. This person. He is not infamous, this person. It's best not to recruit him. Although his child's understanding is somewhat different, it is now all a waste. Dao Yi sighed and didn't speak. He had given up on Wang Lin. Just at this moment, the voice of an angry woman came from the crowd. This voice contained her full cultivation and echoed across the Empyrean trial. All of you, shut up. You don't know anything. More than a decade ago, Wang Lin could battle against me without the soul armor. How could he be anything like what you say? Even with the soul armor, so what? That just means he has obtained the recognition of the foreign souls to grant him power. It is also part of his own cultivation. 13th palace, he has the power to pass the 13th palace. Do any of you who mock him dare to go up against him? If you are all jealous, you can all go obtain soul armors and see how difficult obtaining the recognition of a foreign soul is compared to the Empyrean trial. This voice came from Empyrean Exalt High Z. Empyrean Exalt High Z was very famous across the Celestial clan. Part of it was because her teacher was Grand Empyrean Zhu Di, and part of it was her own strength. After her words echoed, the surroundings suddenly became quiet. Wang Lin was still silently pondering as he stood outside the transfer array with a pale face. Under the doubtful gazes of everyone present, he looked at the excited and angry Empyrean Exalt High Z in the distance. The Celestial Emperor shook his head and said, "Little fellow High Z, don't speak nonsense. Whether it's you Empyrean Exalts or Ascendant Empyreans, the focus on your own cultivation is key. There is a limit to relying on external power. This Wang Lin's limit is the 13th palace. I fear that for the next hundreds of thousands of years, it will be difficult for him to take another step forward. What's the point of temporarily reaching this level? This is the truth all you cultivators need to remember, because relying on external power just delays your own cultivation. This Wang Lin is an example for you all." Grand Empyrean Wu Feng, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly said, "External force." The title of Grand Empyrean is also an external force. It is an inheritance from the immemorial God realm. If it is really as you say, which one of us hasn't obtained help from an external force? Even you, Celestial Emperor, Grand Empyrean 8 Extreme. I remember when you were only an Empyrean Exalt. If not for your bloodline inheriting the legacy of the Celestial Ancestor, do you think you could have inherited the title of 8 Extreme? External force is another force. As long as this power can blow away everything in your path, who would dare to say anything? Grand Empyrean Wu Feng coldly stared at the Celestial Emperor and spoke once more. You call him worthless, then, in the eyes of the Celestial Ancestor, a descendant like you is also worthless. Wu Feng was not holding back anymore. The Celestial Emperor stared at Wu Feng, and his expression gradually became cold. How can the title of a Grand Empyrean be compared to a soul armor? Wu Feng, I'm surprised you can still value such a person. Even when this child put on the soul armor, the 13th palace was his limit. But if he got the title of Grand Empyrean, he could easily pass through the 19th palace. Do you think these two are the same thing? Forget the 19th palace. If he can pass through the 15th palace, I'll help him today. I'll pass down a holy edict telling the world that he is the #1 person in the celestial clan below Grand Empyreans. That is, if he can. Wu Feng silently pondered. The Celestial Emperor smiled slightly, as if he didn't care about what Wu Feng had said. He turned around and his shadow was about to dissipate. Ming Dao, return to the palace. The matter here is over. Dao Yi let out a sigh and was about to turn to leave. Even the Empyrean Exalts and Ascendant Empyreans turned with the thoughts of leaving. This show was over. Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao coldly looked at the silent Wang Lin. He sneered and was about to leave. But just at this moment, Wang Lin suddenly let out a sigh. He looked up at the Celestial Emperor that was about to dissipate. 15th Palace? Celestial Emperor, take a good look. Wang Lin's expression was calm, but inside his body, a force was gathering. At this moment, it erupted and he flew into the sky. His action suddenly caused Dao Yi to pause and the Celestial Emperor to frown. His dissipating body solidified once more and he looked toward Wang Lin. Wu Feng's eyes lit up and he looked at Wang Lin, who had charged into the sky like a dragon. Not only them, but everyone in the Empyrean trial raised their heads and looked up at Wang Lin's figure. What is he going to do? Is he really going to continue? His soul armor is already at the time limit, how can he continue? As Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao looked at Wang Lin's figure, his heart skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling. At the same time, outside the Empyrean trial, on Mount Emperor, Grand Empyrean Zhu Di suddenly stood up and stared at the autumn leaf before him. He had seen everything that had happened and agreed with the Celestial Emperor's words. When he saw Wang Lin fly up, he showed a rare sign of surprise. What does this child have up his sleeve to continue? At this moment, in the Purple Yang sect, Grand Empyrean Gemini had played enough and had returned to the side of the middle-aged cultivator. They saw Wang Lin being belittled and was very angry. When they saw Wang Lin flying into the sky, they were filled with expectation. Wang Lin. Greed, who was being tortured by Grand Empyrean Gemini, stared at the mirror, and his mind was blank. This video will end here.